All right, good afternoon and welcome. Today we're going to be painting a scene from Lisbon, Portugal. But before we get started, if you wouldn't mind giving this video a thumbs up, and if you like what you see, consider subscribing. I'm going to have 3 to 4 videos coming out per week, and if you really like what you see, all of these demos are for sale in my store, the link for which is in the description. So I'm going to go ahead and put our reference photo up here on the right. It's a very bright, sunny day. If you'll notice, my sketch is a little bit different. I took the little trolley out and just put some cars in. I also added an umbrella, and there were no figures in the reference, so we just kind of put those in wherever we thought they were fit. All right, so I'm going to kind of dust this off. I've got some eraser shavings on there, and I'm going to spray my palette, get this wet, and we'll get ready to rock and roll. All right, let's get our paper wet. And since this is so bright and sunny, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pre-wet my paper. A lot of times this can help if you're going to be working a particularly sunny scene. It really helps make sure that you don't lose any light. So I'm just going to cover this. It's okay if the whole thing's not perfectly symmetrically covered. I'm going to grab a brush, and we're going to keep our sky pretty cool. It's a very nice blue sky in that reference photo. I'm going to grab some Cobalt Blue. I need to refill that little pan there. And maybe a little Cerulean Blue. And you'll see it's maybe a little dark in this pan, but once you pull it out across the sky with the paper already being wet, it really keeps it very nice and light. All right. I'm going to paint right through that building because that's going to be painted over on that second wash. Now, something I do want to do is these roofs are going to be pretty warm, and I want to have them kind of showing through, or essentially I don't want to have to paint over them in the second wash. I want to have them nice and bright. So I'm going to take, I already had kind of a warm mixture going there on the palette. I'm just going to get that set, and let's see what that looks like on there. And I'm going to paint it a little bit higher than the roof, just because I know it's going to actually, oops, I bumped my camera. It's going to pull down a little bit, so I'm going to do that there and there, maybe a little there. And yeah, I think that looks very nice. Okay, let's keep working our way through. Now at this point, a lot of that building is going to be painted over in our second wash. So really I'm just adding some paint to it to make it easier to darken. So I'm not really too concerned about temperature and all that good stuff. I'll add a little bit down this part, and I'm just going to take and pull it through there. Right, like that. Okay. Let's get a little paint on this side building. This side building is going to be probably the darkest part of our painting. All right. Let's really warm up the ground here. I'm going to grab some yellow ochre, a little burnt sienna. Yeah. That looks better. And again, since this paper is already wet, you've really got to thicken up your pigments to get what you're looking for. And we'll cool it off and darken it down as we get closer to the bottom of our paper. I've got some neutral grays up here. Just trying to keep it warm. All right. Okay. Pretty simple first wash, not much going on here. So I'm going to let this dry, and we'll come back and start our second wash. All right, we are back. This is now completely dry, and we're going to go ahead and get started on our second wash. Let's spray a little water on our paper, and let's go ahead and get a mixture going here. I'm going to start with our building, and for this scene, something I'm thinking about is it's fairly simple. And so I'm going to have to be a little bit creative in how I make the painting more interesting to look at, right? If I just paint dark, dark, leave the light roofs all the way down to the ground, and then it's going to be a little boring. I've got to make sure to leave some gaps of light. I'm going to use my paper towel and kind of lighten some things and add some sort of atmospheric effects. We're going to have to get a little creative here. So let's start with the top of our building. Okay. I want to make sure I get that shape right. We're going to start working our way down. And I'm just trying to keep this dark and I guess somewhat neutral. It's maybe a tad on the warm side, but that's okay. It's a warm scene, so it makes sense. All right. I'm going to grab a smaller brush here. Grab some darker paint. Just to have a few little bits of detail coming down into our little tower shape. Okay. All right, now I'm really going to want to start varying my tone here. I'm going to cool it off. Start to work in some lines here. For your gaps of light, if you can have them be almost directional, it will really help give that impression of detail. Okay. All right, gonna pull in some grays. I got to remember where my roof line is here. I'll pull right along underneath it like that. And then I'm just going to grab some pure water here and throw that on there as well. Okay, and I've got another roof line just here that I want to be weary of as well. All right. I'm going to grab some pure water and just pull it into this dark stuff over here. I want it to kind of fade off of the sides. It's not going to be a main focus area for us, so I don't want too many hard edges, and I don't want the eye to dwell too much there. Maybe I'll just pull 2 lines through there. And I'm going to add some chimneys and things. I'm going to put some water on this tower. I think it's a little too dark. Okay. All right, let's pick up some lavender. And again, as I'm working through, I'm just trying to vary my warm and cool just to add a little bit of interest to things here. Okay. All right, let's see. I'm going to pick up some dark paint. I'm going to line that roof like that. Okay. I definitely need to do a roof line here and here, but it may be a touch too wet for the moment. I'm going to take my paper towel and kind of pull in some lighter areas. Again, I'm just trying to get a mix of lights and darks in the building. I just don't want it to be too monotonous, right? Okay. That's looking okay. Let's give it another spray and let's kind of keep working our way through here. Now, I've got a bit of a challenge ahead of me, and I'll explain that here in just a second. So I want to negatively cut this umbrella out, right? And I also have these figures. I have to kind of decide, am I going to negatively paint the figures or positively paint the figures? Because if I keep this building going down dark, I'm going to have to negatively cut around them. If I have the characters painted dark and the building dark, it's going to be tough to get the impression I want. And so I'm going to have to really think about that. I'm going to just pull in some dark paint here to make a roof line there and there. Okay. That looks all right. I'm just putting some yellow ochre over here. Just varying things up, making it a little more interesting. I don't like the top of this. This got really dark in here, so I'm going to try to have that, oops, I'm going to try to have that bleed down a little bit. Yeah, I think that looks better. Okay. Now, I think what I'm going to do is we're going to get really creative here. I'm going to try to pull this down in some areas, and I think we're going to do a mix of negatively painting and positively painting so that we don't get too monotonous. I'm going to negatively paint around these two figures. Okay. And then we're going to get abstract over on the left here. I'm going to make sure to cut around them. Got my little brush here. Just making some sort of abstract lines here. And as you get closer to the bottom, do not be afraid to darken your brush. Okay? We want to draw the eye towards the bottom of our scenes. Okay? All right, and then over here, I think I'm going to actually, we're going to positively paint those figures. But I got to add some kind of abstract lines through there. Okay, and we'll kind of pull it off the side a little bit. Yeah, I think that's looking okay. I'm going to paint those little arches there. Maybe a line there, let that bleed in. All right, let me give this another spray. We're going to keep working along here. Let's see, I think I'm going to go ahead and get this building done. Grab a larger brush. And I want to cool this down a little bit. Cool it down, get it pretty dark. Right, because this is closer to us. But I also want to cut some windows out there. Okay. We're just going to work our way down. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to vary my tone a little bit. Squinting. Just trying to get the idea here of a building that's closer. Okay. Just picking up some darker paint. Now, something I've got to be careful of is this building in the back is fairly dark, and so I can't have it darker than this here, or else I won't get the depth I'm looking for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come through with this paper towel, and I'm going to pull into the figure. It's going to do two things. One, it will lighten it a little. But two, it will help add a little bit of interest. And I'm okay if it's dark near the bottom or under those roof lines. That's fine. I just need to lighten up the body a little bit there. Okay, something like that. And I'll also be adding some darker paint to this building here. Let's get something warm, fairly dark to kind of outline where these windows here. And again, keeping it pretty abstract. The less things I have to actually paint and think about, the better. All right. Now, we've got a nice foreground shadow going. So let's go ahead and put that in there. Let's keep it, I'm going to make just a little mark here. Okay, seems about right. And we're just going to go for it. A lot of watercolor is about that. I would much rather see an inaccurate confident stroke than an accurate timid one, right? We've got to just go for it sometimes. Okay? And just to make our shadow a little interesting, I always like to add some kind of glazes in it. And we're going to have this figure kind of peeking out from the side. So I think what I'm going to do is kind of add a little thing that'll bleed down, and that'll be part of a darker point in his shadow. Just going to throw in some little bits here and there. Right, shadows aren't just one tone. Okay, let's give this a spray. Always keeping it alive. And I'm going to grab my palette knife. I may. Let's see. You know what? I don't like that. I want to keep that kind of misty there. May scratch some vertical lines here and here, though. Okay. Paint's a little wet right now. All right, let's grab some darker paint here. Even throwing a little red. I'm just going to put something in here I just want to darken up the top and the bottom a little bit. Okay. Let me pull that down. Give it another spray. All right. I think we're about ready to start working in some figures here. Let's start with this figure right there. I'm going to go for my favorite watercolor, which is that lavender. I think it is just has a nice effect on the paper. I'm using a fairly small brush. And as I get closer to the bottom, we're going to darken it up. I want to be using pretty thick pigments here. In fact, I need to darken him up in general. It's a little too bright. Okay. Let's add a little face. I've got some burnt sienna. Just kind of pull that through there. All right. Let's keep working. Give it another spray. I'm going to add some interest lines in here while this is still wet. Could be windows, signs, who knows. Just, again, trying to keep it interesting. Give it another spray. Let's keep working our way across here. I'm going to do this figure. I got to be careful to cut around the top of that car. Okay. I'm going to put a little water there in the center just to help it bleed a little bit. Let's do the same thing. Do the same thing over here. I'm just going to use pure water in the body there. Oops, well, I guess it had some yellow ochre on there. That's okay. Dab it out a little. Grab some neutral tint. Pull it around the bottom there. Need to be careful on making marks with my fingers. That's okay. I'll do the same thing over here. Just a little color and just some water. Remember, these were the two that we wanted to paint negatively around, right? I'm going to stick that paper towel in there to dry that off. Okay, it's starting to look good here. Okay, give another spray, keep everything alive. Let's check and see if I can't do some vertical lines. That's better. It's better. Now we're going to have to get pretty abstract over in this area. We've got these figures here. We're going to have some shadows underneath. So I'm going to let my brush move here, okay? And this is, again, just about being confident with what you're doing. And some of that takes time, but a lot of it, takes a little bit of, I guess, bravery. You just gotta be okay with what's gonna happen. Okay. Well, maybe there's some chairs or something under there. I don't know. I'm not really going for perfect shapes. I'm just going for movement here. I'm going to darken a little bit underneath this umbrella and around these two figures. Just to pull them out a little bit more. And we're going to work their shadows. Give that a spray. All right, now what did we have before? If you can remember, it's always good to do your shadows all at once so you get the same tones, but I forget to do that a lot. All right, now light's coming from right to left here. It's a little wet over here, that's fine. Okay. I'm going to have to come back and we're going to work those again. They need to be sharper and bolder. I'm just feeling I want to have this foreground dry up a little bit before I do my shadows. So instead, let's work on these cars here. That'll be fun. Let's do some yellow ochre. We'll do a taxi. Always fun to do those. Okay, and as we get lower on the car, we get darker, making sure to use some fairly thick paint here. And I'm going to leave the right side of the car untouched. I'm trying to create the idea that, let's see here. I'm trying to create the idea that the right side of the car, that we can see a little bit of it, and it's also in light. And I didn't do that so well. But you know what? That's okay. That's okay. Not super worried about it. I may give it another go here. Let's see. See if I can't fix that up. Well, I've got this paper towel just to make that car a little more interesting. Maybe pull through the top there. Okay. Add a dark line. We'll add a dark line down here too. The tires are going to be darker. Right. I'm just trying to squint there. Yeah, I think that looks okay. Give it another spray. And this is a little tricky because normally I'd like to have this building here to outline this car, but I stopped it short so that we could get that figure done. So instead of leaving the windshield completely light, I'm going to have to go over it with just a little bit of paint, a little bit of water. And we'll leave that gap there. Okay. That's all right. It's not too bad. I may throw just a little bit of something there to help block that shape in. Okay. Let's give it a spray. Let's keep working along. We've got another car over here. We'll do something a little cooler. Grab my smaller brush, a little bit darker paint. We'll work down here. Yep. Something like that. See if I can't get those taillights in there. Yep. All right. We are coming along here. If this is still wet, I'd like to get that shadow a little less. Let's see if I can't do something like that. Just to add a little bit of something to it. All right, let's work on our shadows again. I'm going to cool this down. It's a little watery, but we're going to see if we can get away with it. All right, have that shadow pull over. That shadow pull over right like that. And we're going to have these gentlemen. Their shadows just like that. Nice and clean. And then this has got to be a different tone. I'm going to do the shadows underneath this umbrella structure. It's okay if it's the same, I should say, the same tone, the same darkness, but it needs to be a different temperature. So I'm going to go cooler. It's how we can differentiate that, hey, these are shadows underneath here. Okay. Something like that. And you'll see it's all very abstract, right? I'm not really painting any one thing. I'm just painting the ideas of things. All right, I'm going to add some dark paint in here, just to, again, give us a little bit more interest. Let's see if I can't. Yeah, that looks better. All right, I was hoping that this figure would have bled down more into there. So I'm going to have to, I used my brush and pulled that dark shape down a little bit more. Let's grab a little bit of dark paint. We give those guys some hair. And I'm going to darken up a few areas in here. All right. I want to be careful because I do not want to get rid of that light there. I mean, you definitely have got to have it to get the contrast that we're looking for. I'm going to lighten that up, actually. I'm just trying to get a variation of lights and darks in there. I think it looks pretty good. Let's work this car a little bit more. Yeah. Okay, and then I'm going to take this ratty brush and grab some thick pigment. I'm going to add a couple of figures kind of maybe in the distance here, you know. Not a whole lot, but just to fill up our scene a little bit more. Right? And again, I want to keep those very abstract. None of them except for maybe that guy right there is going to get a shadow. And I'm kind of stepping back here. I'm taking a bird's eye view look at what's been painted so far. I'm just trying to get an idea of what still needs to be done. I'm trying to figure out how to add just, I don't know, a little bit more interest to it. I feel like this front area is so barren over there. I'm going to pull the darkness down of that building. Let's give this another spray. What I'll probably do here is we'll do some kind of lead-in lines for the road. Just to, oops, I wanted to carry that through there. Just to give it a little bit more of a lead in there. I think that looks nice. Pull that shadow out a little bit there. I'm going to take and just touch that car. Add a little bit thicker paint on here. I think that looks nice. Really just trying to bolden things up right now. I want it to be pop, or excuse me, I want it to pop. I want it to be interesting to look at. So I'm just trying to darken some things up here. Okay. So far, I think this looks pretty good. I'm kind of just toying with it now. Do we want to do anything to this building? I don't think so. I think it looks pretty good. I can do a couple of blots just to keep things interesting. Oh, I do remember though. I wanted to add some chimneys. Okay. So let's do this. I want to be careful here. We'll have a chimney there. We'll put 3 more over there. And remember, this roof is warm, so I want to keep our shadows somewhat warm. And again, that light is coming from right to left. So we'll take and pull those that way. Anything else? Maybe darken just the tops of them. Oh. All right, squinting my eyes a little bit here. Anything else? I'm just adding some lines to that break there. Anything else I want to add? We're going to add some gouache to give our subject and little bits of people some highlights. Put a face there. But no, other than that, I think we're good. I'm going to let this dry and we'll come back and finish it up. All right, we are back to add our final touches. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take a look at this. So I often talk about adding windows and things while the paper is still wet, just so we don't get this kind of stick-on look to our I guess our windows and poles and things. I do kind of want to add some here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and make a couple of dark spots and then take my finger and pull that down. It needs to be thicker than that. Okay, let's try it again. I just want to take a look and see how that appears. Again, you want to be careful when you're adding these details to your buildings because, again, it's not really meant to be the star of the show, so we don't want too much on them as it'll kind of detract from our interest area and pull the eyes up. But it's okay to add, you know, just a couple of things. Okay. Just adding a little bit of something there. And I'll still take my finger to just soften that up. I actually, it's okay. Maybe shouldn't have done that, but it's too late now. Add a few little details on the tops of things here. I don't want that line. Let's see. I'll put our same windows down here. And I may leave these a little sharper just because they're actually right next to our area of interest, but I still think they look better just softened up. Okay. The building looks good. Let's add maybe a vertical line here. I'll add a what could be a little street sign over there. That looks nice. Maybe I'll stick one off the side of this building as well. Okay. I'm going to add just a little bit of a dark line on that roof of this car. Not too much. It's really nice if you've got a little brush like this to do this little detail work with. Okay. A little bit there. I did come back and just add a little something to that building. I'm going to darken this figure's jacket up a little bit. Same thing here. Let's do this. I'm going to grab some of that lavender and give that person a little shirt or something over there. They're supposed to be, I wanted to give the impression of some chairs and things over here, so I need to put some more vertical lines, I think. I don't know, maybe I don't want to get too picky with it, but I don't know. Maybe the impression's there, maybe it's not. Everybody, sees different things. So, add just a little dark edge to that umbrella, right? Maybe a little bit of a shadow there. I think we're ready for the gouache. One last thing. Contemplating adding a little bit of darkness to these windows. Maybe just a couple of kind of brick and mortar lines. Don't know. But looks pretty good. All right, let's put our gouache on and we'll sign it. Again, if you watch any of my videos, you'll know I'm a fan of using gouache to give highlights. Go get yourself some. It is cheap. One tube will last you years. And it is really nice for making your figures pop out. And just give them that little bit of something. Yep. I can use it to, there's some license plates at the back of these cars. I'll just use my finger and kind of smear that. I'll add a vertical line there. A little something in the dark here. And I'm just kind of using it to pop a couple of little spots of white in there. Maybe. Yeah, it might be too much to do all these windows. That looks all right. I'll leave it. All right. Anything else? Maybe just the tops of those. Okay. I think we're good here. I may add this. Let me give this guy kind of a white shirt. All right. I think we're all good there. So let's sign it and we'll review. See what we could have done better. See what we did well on. All right. Okay. Let's take the tape off. Always the fun part. Looks good. What did we do well with, and what could we have worked on better? Let's start with the bad first. I would have liked, I think, to wet some parts of the paper here before I ran that shadow through, just so it would have bled and kind of made it a little bit more interesting down here. I also think that this abstract area, it did okay. It's really meant to be a filler. It's not meant to be anything, but I probably could have cleaned that up a little bit. I got a little too close on this car here. You always want to leave a gap of light underneath your car. It's really what gives it the appearance of a car. Luckily, I had another car in the scene. I was wondering if I could scratch one. Luckily, we had this car in here to help read that car, but again, you always want to leave that gap there. So I got a little too close. What else? Yeah. Other than that, I think we did well. I think these two, I really like the look of those figures cut out with the dark behind them. Really kind of helps them glow a little bit. Oh, one other thing. This character is the closest in the whole scene, and I think it's the most boring. So I would have liked to liven him up a little bit. But buildings look good. The windows that we did after the fact look good. Our painting retained its light. That's from, again, pre-wetting that paper. I think it looks nice. So, yeah. Overall, very happy. So, if you stayed all the way to the end, I really appreciate it. Please consider subscribing and just keep on painting.